2,400 miles on this Kaabo Wolf King GT Pro, full throttle every ride in heat, snow, rain, on the trails. I ride this thing like I'm trying to destroy it. Now, this isn't a first impression review. This is what actually happens after thousands of miles of hard abuse. And by the end of this video, you'll know whether to buy this or to save your money. And I'm going to tell you the one thing I wish someone had warned me about before I bought this. So let's get started. Let me start with what I don't like, because this is going to have some drawbacks. And there was something I hated about this scooter the day I got it. And then right before making this video, it broke. And that thing is the kickstand. Pretty much everything about the kickstand I don't like. I know this sounds weird and maybe nitpicky, but here's why. The day I got this scooter, I found out the hard way that the kickstand sticks out in a spot that will actually cut the back of your calf if you're not careful. I have a little scar on the back of my leg from it. Placement is just bad. But after cutting myself twice on the kickstand, I learned how to stand in a way where it hasn't happened ever since. Then the kickstand kept coming loose. It actually fell off while I was riding it, so I put thread locker on it, and it still came loose, which I'm starting to think it was part of maybe my fault, because when you get this scooter, that's the only part that you assemble yourself is the kickstand. So it's probably my fault. But then right before making this video, I accidentally bumped the throttle when it was in level 5. The scooter went flying and all the weight pretty much landed on the kickstand, and it snapped off finally. So now I don't have to worry about the kickstand anymore. But when it was working, it was fine. It felt super solid. So my conclusion is the kickstand, it's in a bad spot, but if you get used to the placement and if you put some thread locker from the start, you probably will not have the same issues that I did. Now, let me talk about the other headache I've had with this scooter. And honestly, this one didn't even cross my mind until I put over 1,000 miles on the scooter. High power scooters, obviously, they have trade-offs, and you're going to need to change the tires. And changing the tires on this is not fun. Even after changing the tires on this is still a headache. It took me even over almost 4 hours to change it. Getting the tire off the rim is difficult. Getting the new tire back on the rim is difficult, and you're going to need a bunch of zip ties, which is a whole separate video. And then lining up the rim while putting it back on the scooter is also difficult. Obviously, I did get it done. I've actually had to change it twice. So here's some advice. When you buy new tires, buy them directly from Kaabo. I made the mistake of getting some cheap knockoffs on Amazon. I thought they'd be the same, but they wore out in less than half the time. And because of that, I've had to change the tires twice since owning this. If I just bought the real Kaabo tires from the start, I would have only had to do it once. And that's just one of the trade-offs of having a powerful, heavy scooter. You're going to have to change the tires more often. So that is one of the trade-offs of owning something this capable. Now, in my first review, after my first month, I mentioned some other issues. The throttle has a dead zone at first, and then it's touchy. But after riding this for a couple months, I was able to adjust, and I actually really like how the throttle feels. Most of the time, I just ride in level 5, and the throttle is really smooth. I also complain about how heavy and hard to transport it is. But honestly, that weight has become one of my favorite things about this scooter, because that weight is what makes this feel like such a tank at the high speeds. And I'll get to that in a minute. If the kickstand placement and the tire changes haven't scared you off, I'm going to show you exactly why I've still put over 2,400 miles on this thing anyway. I'm going to talk about the current top speed versus what it was when I initially got the scooter, and how the range is now, even after all this time. If at any point during this video you realize this scooter is for you, I put a link in the description. You can check current prices and availability. It's an affiliate link, so it supports the channel at no extra cost to you. Now let's talk about what actually matters for a $3,000 purchase. Does this thing actually hold up in the long term? Now, after 2,400 miles, besides the kickstand issue, the scooter has felt completely indestructible. Even after all this time and all these miles, it still feels rock solid. The suspension works like it's brand new. There are no creaks, no squeaks, no rattles. The thing is built like a tank, and it feels super solid even at the top speed. There is no stem wobbling. The deck is solid. The folding mechanism solid. As far as maintenance, the only thing I've done is the tires. I haven't touched the brakes. I haven't adjusted anything. Literally zero other maintenance. Over 2,400 miles. I rode this thing over 400 days, almost every day, every season. And the build quality, it still feels superior. I feel completely confident riding this thing even after all this time. Now let's talk about the top speed, because I know that's why a lot of you are here. When I first got this scooter, I tested the top speed. At full charge, I got it up to 65 miles per hour and held it there for a few seconds. But after 2,400 miles of hard use, here's how the top speed is now. Currently, the fastest I can get this scooter up to is about 61 miles per hour. I'm not sure exactly why this is, whether it's just wear on the battery and everything else. But honestly, I'm totally fine with only going 61 miles per hour, because after owning this all this time, I realized that going over 60 miles an hour on a scooter all the time really isn't that good of an idea. So yes, even after 2,400 miles, the top speed has dropped slightly, but it's still faster than most scooters. And it's just absolutely, even after all this time, it's insane going that fast. But here's the thing, the top speed isn't really where all the fun is to me. The most fun for me is the acceleration, and the scooter isn't just fast. It feels like it's launching you. When you put it in level 5 and go full throttle, it will beat most cars off of the line. And I'm not exaggerating. But from my test, it does 0 to 30 in just over 3 seconds, 0 to 40 miles an hour in about 5 seconds, 0 to 50 miles an hour in about 7.5 seconds. And so in town, what you do with that 0 to 30 range, you're going to be faster than almost anything else next to you at a stoplight. And it's fun just gripping the handlebars, hanging on, feeling the wheels spinning. To me, it's a complete adrenaline rush. And this thing has more power than you'll probably ever need. Now let's talk about the brakes and stopping, because when you're going 60 miles an hour, you're going to want to be able to slow down fast if you need to. I've heard people say that the brakes on this scooter are bad, but I completely disagree from my own experiences, especially for how heavy it is. I think the brakes are amazing. It has hydraulic disc brakes combined with regenerative braking, and they work great together. Even after 2,400 miles, they've held up with zero maintenance. I think most of that is thanks to the regenerative braking. You're using the motor as a brake, and so you're not using the actual disc brakes all that often. But it's held up with zero maintenance, no bleeding, no adjustments. They still bite super hard. And if you lean back and commit to the stop, this thing's going to come to a halt faster than you'd expect. And sometimes the tires will skid a little bit. You just lean back and you'll be fine. I've had no complaints about the brakes, no maintenance, and I have a lot of confidence in the braking system. Now, let me run through some of the other stuff you're probably wondering about. As far as the lights, I ride a lot at night, and the lights are very bright. Not decent for a scooter, but they are actually bright. They light up the road directly in front of you and down the road. You also have lights on the side and on the rear so other cars can see you for safety. And as far as charging, from a completely dead battery to full charge takes about 8 hours. I just plug it in overnight and it's ready to go in the morning. I don't really do any special charging routines for battery maintenance or anything. I just plug it in when it's low and keep it plugged in, which you're probably not supposed to do. If you own this, you should be better than me. But as far as transportation, it's very heavy, but one person can usually lift it into the trunk of a car if you're careful. You can do it one wheel at a time, put the seats down, you lift the front wheel in, and then roll the rest in. Once you figured out that system, it's not really that big of a deal. As far as weather, I've ridden this thing in 100-degree summer heat with no issues. I've ridden it in cold weather, freezing. I've ridden it in snow. Once you get below 40, you'll notice there is an acceleration and a range drop off in the cold. And you will need to bundle up a lot, but it still works. I've ridden through water, small streams on trails. I've never had any issues. And the stock tires are actually really great. I've gone through thorns that would have flattened tires on my bike. It's no problem on this scooter. You could probably get a nail in there and keep riding. Actually, I have, now that I think about it. I did have I think it was a nail go through the tire, and puncture-proof tires, they hold up great. As far as comfort, I'm 5'8", about 175 pounds, and I fit great on this. The deck is huge. The handlebars are a good height. Cruise control makes long rides really easy. And as far as security, it has a password protection so strangers can't just hop on and ride off with it. As far as curbs and on-road, this thing goes up and down curbs. It's nothing. Even with how hard I ride, I've never bottomed out once. The ground clearance is perfect. One other thing, so as far as attention, this can either be a pro or a con, depending on your personality. When you're riding this scooter, you get a lot of attention. People ask about it a lot. The most common question is people ask how fast it goes, and they never really believe you until you show them. All right, let's talk about the battery range. I saved this for near the end because I think it's one of the most impressive parts. I didn't do this test on day one like most reviews because that number isn't really useful to you if you plan on owning this for years. That's the honeymoon number. Batteries settle in early and then they hold out steady for a long time. So I waited till around 2,300 miles to perform this range test because I wanted to give you the range you can actually plan around, not the best case numbers, but the real numbers. And so here's my setup. I'm a 175-pound rider. Tire pressure was around 40 psi. Temperature was near perfect, around 70 degrees. Terrain was mixed. I did roads and trails. Riding style, I tried to be moderate, not full throttle all the time, just to see the total range. I rode this scooter until it completely shut down. And after riding what felt like forever, I got 79 and a half miles before the battery quit. And to put that in perspective, that 79 and a half miles is wider than the entire state of New Jersey. So you could ride this thing from that side of the state all the way to the other on a single charge. Or to think of it another way, you could ride from the Las Vegas Strip to the California border and back on one charge. And this is after 2,400 miles of abuse and real world degradation that you'd see. And so this is the real number, just under 80 miles on one charge. And that completely blew my mind. I remember at the beginning I said the one thing I wish someone had warned me about before I bought this scooter, that is the tires. Not just the tires, but what the tires represent. And the scooter is not an appliance, it's a machine. You can't just buy it and forget about it like an iPhone. It requires some involvement, some maintenance, some willingness to get your hands dirty every once in a while. And if someone had told me up front, this is a machine that will reward if you treat it like one, I would have been ready for it instead of frustrated by it. So I'm telling you now, if you buy this scooter, you just go in with the right expectations. Keep an eye on your tires. Put the thread locker on your bolts on the kickstand. Learn how it works. Get to know your scooter and treat it like a high performance vehicle that it is. If you do that, this scooter will take care of you for thousands of miles. Now, before I give you the final verdict, let me show you something. Before I bought this scooter, I made this value matrix where I compared a lot of popular hyper scooters I could find based off of three things: the top speed, the battery range, and the price. Basically, how much performance do you get per dollar? I plotted everything out from the Dualtron Storm, the Nami Bernie, all of them. The Kaabo Wolf King GT Pro was up in the top right corner. It had the best speed per dollar and the best range per dollar, and it really wasn't even that close. And that's the main reason I bought this scooter. And after 2,400 miles of real world numbers, I can say that it's probably better than I even expected. The value and the fun per dollar of this scooter is pretty much in its own class. So, for my final verdict, would I buy this scooter again? Yes, without hesitation, I would do it again. Even after all these miles, after using it in every condition, putting it through everything I could throw at it, this scooter is worth every dollar. And I would do it again. I would recommend this to a friend. But here's who shouldn't buy. If you're wanting a scooter that is portable, if you're going to be carrying this up and down stairs a lot, this scooter, I would say look elsewhere. But if you do want a high performance scooter with serious range, serious speed, serious build quality, and if you're willing to maintain it, this scooter is going to get you thousands of miles. This is your scooter. And so if you are the right rider, this video is your permission slip to pull the trigger. I put a link in the description where you can get this scooter. It is an affiliate link, so same price to you. It helps support the channel and tells me to make more long-term reviews like this one. If you had any questions I didn't answer, drop them in the comments. I'll answer from my 2,400 miles of experience. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you riding soon.